You know, it's funny. Sometimes the quietest moments are the ones that come right after the loudest regrets. We get so caught up in the noise, in our ambitions, and we just assume there's always going to be a later to make those important calls. But what happens when later just never shows up? This was the last voicemail a father left for his daughter, Lily. A message she didn't hear until it was far, far too late. And that unheard plea, it sits right at the very heart of this entire story. So that's the big question we're really digging into today. And the answer is way more complicated than you might think. Because, you see, not every story about silence ends with regret. Let's start with Lily's. All right, so let's dive into Lily's story. Picture this. She's in New York City, absolutely conquering it, driven by this intense ambition to build a life that's all her own. This hyper-independence she built, it wasn't just about being successful. It was a shield. For Lily, moving to the city was her way of putting some serious distance between her and a past and a father whose presence always felt, well, complicated and painful. So to everyone on the outside, she was just thriving, killing it. But underneath that shiny, successful surface was what experts call a silent pain. It's this heavy, constant ache that no one else can see, but you feel it deep down every single day. Her dad used to call every night like clockwork, but soon those daily calls turned into weekly ones, then monthly, until pretty much nothing. This phrase right here, "I'm busy, talk later," it became her go-to response, her shield against the guilt. And then came this message. This one felt different. It was more urgent. But Lily was caught up in her own world, right? She typed back something about a big meeting, said she'd visit on the weekend. She chose her ambition over his plea. The very next morning, she gets a call from the hospital. And in an instant, everything just shuddered. All the noise of her life that she'd built so carefully, the deadlines, the meetings, the plans, it all just evaporated. And all that was left was this profound, unbearably cold silence. What Lily was feeling was more than just typical grief. Psychologists actually have a name for it: ambiguous grief. It's that specific ache you feel when you're mourning someone who's physically gone now, but who you'd already lost emotionally a long, long time ago. Now, Lily's story is an absolute gut punch. It probably makes you want to pick up the phone right now. But hold on. Before we jump to that simple lesson, we have to ask a much, much more complicated question. Because while Lily's silence led her to this place of crushing regret, for so many other people, silence isn't a failure to connect at all. It's a necessary act of self-preservation. It's survival. And this slide right here gets to the heart of it. There's a huge difference between a barrier and a boundary. A barrier, like what Lily built, is a wall that comes from avoidance and pain. It just isolates you. But a boundary? That's about protecting yourself, about preserving your own integrity. It's not about shutting people out. It's about defining what's healthy for you. It's a profound act of self-love. So to really get the difference between a barrier and a boundary, we need to look at the incredibly powerful emotions that just fester in silence. The amazing researcher Brené Brown has done so much work on this. She says shame is that intensely painful feeling that we are fundamentally unworthy of love and belonging. And it absolutely loves to grow in the dark, fed by secrecy, silence, and judgment, the very things that so often define these broken family relationships. So here's the crucial point. Guilt and shame are not the same thing, not at all. Guilt can actually be useful. It says, hey, I did something bad, I should probably fix it. But shame is paralyzing. It tells you I am bad, and that just leads to you rejecting yourself, not fixing the problem. Lily's story is a deep dive into guilt and the regret that comes with it. But her experience is not universal. For many, many people, choosing silence, choosing to set a firm boundary isn't an act of neglect. It's an act of incredible courage. To really see what I mean, let's look at some other stories. Stories where silence wasn't the mistake. It was the only way to find safety and peace. This comes from a woman who, after trying for years, finally had to step away from her family. Her silence isn't a barrier of avoidance. It's a boundary. It's a boundary she drew to protect not just herself, but her child. Or take this quote. This is from a young transgender person whose father just flat out refused to respect their name, their pronouns, their boundaries. When someone denies you that basic level of respect, sometimes estrangement is the only way to hold on to who you are. And this quote, wow, this one just captures the heartbreaking dilemma at the core of so many of these situations. The choice to go no contact is almost never easy. It's usually born from this painful, awful realization that the person you want love from the most is also the person who's hurting you the most. And this just reframes the entire conversation, doesn't it? Choosing to walk away from a dynamic that's hurting you isn't selfish. It's not cold. It's choosing your own integrity over the comfort of just keeping things the same even when they're broken. It's courage. So, if the answer isn't always to just pick up the phone and call, what's the path forward? How does anyone even begin to heal? Whether you're dealing with regret like Lily or the sense of relief from finally setting a boundary. Here's what's so important to understand. Healing doesn't always start with getting back together or even getting an apology. It starts with what's called internal clarity. It's about being brutally honest with yourself about the pain, yeah, but also the love, the anger, the relief, and just giving yourself permission to feel all of it without judging yourself. That is where the real work begins. And that brings us to the final thought I want to leave you with. Lily's story is this powerful, painful reminder to listen to the people we love before they're gone. But these other stories, they remind us that sometimes the most important voice we've been ignoring is our own.